The Warriors have a serious Klay Thompson conundrum. Klay Thompson is not what he was. Even he acknowledged in a recent article that he's not the guy that once scored 60 points in 3 quarters, or the guy who scored 37 points in a single quarter. All that stuff is done with. And that's okay. Klay is not only 34 years old, he's had 2 devastating injuries that he's had to overcome, and it's a miracle that he's still out there playing. However, his overall play is a detriment to the Warriors at this point. The more he plays, the harder it is for the Warriors to win games. The less he plays, less of a role he has from an offensive standpoint, the better odds the Warriors have of winning a game. And we've seen this over the course of the last several weeks, when Potts has been inserted into the closing lineup over Klay, where the Warriors are roughly 2 times better offensively when Potts is in the equation over Klay. And the Warriors are worlds apart better offensively when Kuminga is their second option instead of Klay. But the Warriors have unbelievable sentimental ties to Klay Thompson. He's been with the Warriors his entire career. He wants to finish his career with the Warriors, and he's having a hard time adjusting to the fact that he's not the player that he once was. He's trying his best, he's saying the right things, but the results on the floor are simply not showing up. What Klay has done in the month of February has been absolutely abysmal. Let me show you the numbers real quick. In 7 games in February, he's playing 29 minutes per game, averaging 13.3 points on 35.7% from the field. That's on 14 shot attempts. Abysmal. 24.5% from the 3-point line on 7.6 attempts per game. And obviously he's never really given the team much of anything else from a statistical standpoint. His biggest value always came from his offensive contributions and obviously being a two-way player and being reliable from a defensive standpoint, which even that he no longer is. So again, it's a major conundrum because the Warriors have a hard time hurting feelings because Klay Thompson has started for this team his entire career. And he's on a contract year. He's trying to get his final big payday this offseason. The Warriors tried to offer him a more than reasonable deal before the season started, and he turned it down, flat out. He bet on himself. And sometimes betting on yourself doesn't always work out because betting ultimately is gambling. He had a surefire contract given to him to sign after the horrific run that he had against the Lakers in the second round of the playoffs last season. And he didn't want to take it. He believed going into this season that he's a 30 to 35 million per year kind of player. He's not even willing to take a 2-year deal. He wants like a 4-year deal. And now at this point, Klay will be lucky to get $20 million per year. And this is a sad and unfortunate reality for Klay. But does it have to be this way? Can Klay fix up and switch up in ways that he will be a more positive overall for the team than a negative? I don't believe that Klay Thompson is a viable starter for the Warriors anymore if the Warriors truly want to contend this season and be viable to compete for a championship. His minutes ultimately need to be curtailed because in those minutes, he's not effective enough. The Warriors are winning games despite Klay Thompson doing whatever he's doing, not because of him. And if he does have a good game at this point, it's more of an exception than the rule. And I believe a lot of that has to do with the shot selection, the kind of shots that he's taking. We all recognize Klay Thompson as one of the greatest shooters of all time next to Steph. Well, he's not that anymore. Why? Because we have a 48-game sample size of him shooting 37% from the 3-point line on 8.6 attempts. You shouldn't be shooting that many threes if you're going to shoot 37% from the 3-point line. There are so many guys that shoot better than Klay Thompson at this point in his career. It's not even funny. It's really quite sad. His true shooting is at about 56% on the season. But let me show you something interesting and how Klay could potentially turn his season around and be much more effective for the Warriors overall by changing his approach to how he wants to score the ball. He relies too much on the 3-point shot. A really good way to get himself in rhythm in order to be better from the 3-point line may be for him to go inside the arc and start shooting more mid-range. Because let's take a look at what he's been doing from the mid-range. Okay, so from the right elbow, Klay is shooting 40.5% from the field. League average is 39.4. It's not much better than league average, but it's still better. From the right elbow area in general, he's shooting 42.9% from the field. League average is 40.8%. But look what he shoots from the top of the key, free throw circle, whatever you want to call it. He's at 61.5%. League average is 43.8% from the field. He's only taken 13 of these shots this season. He needs to increase the rate in which he shoots these shots from the mid-range way more because he's way more effective. Now the baseline-ish areas, he's really good. Look at this. From the right side, he's shooting 50% from the field. League average is 43.1%. He's elite from this area. Look at the left side. he's shooting 46.4%. Again, way above league average, 42.4%. And unfortunately, Klay is pretty bad around the rim. League average is 60%, he shoots 52%. It's part of the reason why he's been struggling so much, because he doesn't have a driving game in which he can create easy baskets for himself around the basket. That is what it is. But now let's take a look at his three-point shooting. From the left corner, he is abysmal. He's shooting 28.6% from the left corner. League average is 39.4%. From the left wing, he's shooting 38.4%. It's slightly above league average at 35.7%. From the top of the arc, he's shooting 38.6%. A little bit above league average, still not good enough given the amount of shots that he takes from there. 36.9 from the right wing. And by far, he takes the most amount of three-point shots from this side. 176 attempts. That's damn near half of his three-point shooting. And he's shooting league average from here. He needs to stop shooting from this area because he stinks from here. Now from the right corner, this is the only place where he's actually thriving. 44.4%. League average is 39.4. Only 27 shots taken. This shot chart right here is really powerful because it shows you where Klay is most effective and where he's least effective. Is the team looking at this? Is Klay Thompson looking at this? I don't know. But if Klay Thompson starts attacking more from closer to the basket and then go outside, find some rhythm from the mid-range, because statistically, it's not even close. He's just flat out better. So get some shots inside the arc, get some good looks, get into a rhythm, hopefully get some layups, and then go look for your three-point shooting. Because the three-point shot becomes easier when you're more in rhythm. If you're constantly just looking for nothing but threes, well then you're going to live with the results of what you're doing out there, and what Klay is doing out there this season, again, is pretty much abysmal. Defensively, he's got the capacity to be okay. He has moments where he's good. And then there are other moments where he's completely unreliable. And then you have to add in the fact that he's not a reliable rebounder either. How do you curtail that situation? Well, limit his minutes. At this point, it's all about what Klay can provide for the Warriors in the limited minutes that he's going to play. The Warriors at some point is going to have to consider the possibility that he has to come off the bench. If they want any shot in hell to maximize their team and maximize their situation, give the minutes that he's getting to somebody else that is playing better than him. What does Steve Kerr care more about? Playing sentimental basketball or playing winning basketball? That's what it comes down to. And again, I think if Klay can simply consider taking more shots inside the arc to find that rhythm once again as the shooter that he's always been from the outside, he's got to play inside out, not outside in. And if he starts leaning into that more and balance out his game a lot better in this way, well then the Warriors might just get the best version of Klay Thompson for the remainder of this season. If he continues to be stubborn and do what he's been doing, then he's going to continue to be a detriment more oftentimes than not. And that's a pill that the Warriors must refuse to swallow. Steph Curry is back now that Klay Thompson isn't trying to compete for shots with him. The offense has changed. It's more geared towards Kuminga, and then whatever leftover shots there are going to Wiggins and Klay Thompson. And Wiggins has been worlds apart better than Klay Thompson in these roles. Wiggins is shooting 47% from the field and 47% from the three-point line in the month of February. So he's learned to adjust to the new offense much better than Klay Thompson. Of course, because the offense was primarily always geared towards Klay Thompson, even more so than Steph Curry oftentimes. And you can see why their offense went from being so mediocre to top 5 ever since they started playing more combinations that have both Potts and Steph Curry in the rotation. Why? It's pretty simple. Potts is a willing passer who looks for Steph Curry more than looking for his own shots. And if you gear towards the most efficient mofo in the game of basketball and get him into rhythm and get him more opportunities, well yeah, your offense is going to be way better. Kuminga is shooting lights out from the field because he's amazing in open space that is created by Steph Curry being on the floor. Klay has to fall in line and figure out how to maximize himself for this team. And sorry to say, it's not going to come from him shooting a bunch of threes. It's going to come from him mixing it up, doing something new, going into that mid-range where he's much more efficient and operate in that area more and go inside out like I said. We'll see what happens with Klay in the offseason. This season has been a total disaster. The guy's getting paid $40 million per year to do what he's doing on the floor this season. And it's completely unacceptable. And he has to come to terms with that. But for right now, if you see what the Warriors have been doing since changing up Klay's role, whether it's his role in the new starting unit's offense or in the closing minutes where he's basically not there, it's night and day. The numbers speak for themselves and the results speak for themselves. I just watched a very frustrating game in which Klay Thompson shot 4 of 14 from the field. He was 1 of 9 from the three-point line. What does that mean? It means he shot 3 of 5 from inside the arc. Do the math, Klay. Curtail your 3-point shooting until you get into a better rhythm in the game, and then start looking for your threes. I'm praying that Klay Thompson and Steve Kerr figure out a way to blend in Klay to this new offense better so that he's more effective. Another way to definitively help Klay's game is to play him next to Trace. Because from the 3-point line, Klay does have something still, and it's that he draws 2. Because the other team, no matter how badly he's shooting, still considers him a major threat from the floor. So a lot of the times you'll see 2 go to Klay on a high screen situation. And nobody is a better finisher for Klay Thompson's passes than Trace. Trace will just roll and finish with a dunk every time. Now you have a 2-man game situation between Klay Thompson and Trayce Jackson-Davis, which helps Trace's game, but it also makes Klay Thompson way more effective with the second unit. If he draws 2, how do you not take advantage of that opportunity? It's not the same if he's kicking it out to anybody else because nobody rolls and finishes on this team the way Trace does from the center spot. Obviously, this is a 1000% Steve Kerr issue because Steve Kerr refuses to play Trayce Jackson-Davis for completely unknown reasons. He's completely effective on the floor, he's completely helpful defensively, but Steve Kerr continues to play Dario Saric over him. It's complete and utter nonsense, and it is truly sickening to know that the team had an opportunity to move away from this toxic situation. I believe that Dario Saric probably has a clause in his contract that states that if he's going to sign the veterans minimum with the Warriors must play him a certain amount per game. That's the only logical explanation that I can come up with in terms of how he keeps playing. Even though he's a complete and utter negative from a defensive standpoint, and he's been a huge reason why the Warriors have been crappy on defense. Now the team has fixed up a lot from a defensive standpoint, but still, on a regular basis, they have to overcome the fact that Dario Saric at center is a 0 from a help standpoint, from a rim protection standpoint, and it just gives the other team unprecedented confidence and momentum when he's on the floor. And certainly, you play Dario Saric at the 5, and these days, Steve Kerr is putting Klay Thompson at the 4 next to Dario Saric. That is a completely destructive idea on both ends of the floor. And in that regard, the numbers do not lie. Dario Saric and Klay Thompson in combination has a net rating of a negative 37.4. In comparison, Klay Thompson and Trace together on the floor is unfortunately still an overall net negative, but they're only a net negative of -2. -2 or -37.4. Which one would you rather have? Let's use some common sense, Steve. Please, for the love of God. That's all I got for now. Let me know what you think in the comments of what needs to happen with Klay Thompson and whether he should start attacking inside of the arc way more. If you found this content enjoyable or helpful in some way, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, the like button, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.